Всем привет! Today our topic is plural of the Russian nouns. And here you're gonna have to learn some spelling rules and we'll also see some exceptions. In this video, I'll give you a couple of exceptions, but I'm gonna create another video later where I go into plural exceptions in more detail. Okay, let's start. So last time we looked at the gender of the nouns and we looked at masculine, feminine, neutral, and we looked at the hard endings and soft endings. And we left plural blank because I said I'm going to look at it in the next video. Okay, so today we're going to look at the plural of the nouns. For plural, we will need to remember two sets of endings. First set is going to apply to masculine and feminine endings. The second set, as you can guess, will apply to neutral endings. And we again are going to look at the endings in terms of hard endings and soft endings. You probably remember that for masculine, the hard ending is any consonant but a kratke, and for feminine endings, the hard ending is a. I'm going to put it in this box right here. So what happens in plural, if a masculine noun ends in a consonant other than a kratke, or feminine noun ends in a, in plural, they will switch to the ending u. Let's take a look how it happens. Let's take a look at the word desk or table. In Russian, it's stol. Now here we have L, and this is the last letter of this noun. And it's a consonant, which means that this ending is considered a zero ending. So to build plural, we are just simply gonna add u. So we will have stali. Let's take a look at the word lampa, which means a lamp. It's a feminine noun that ends in a. And I'm kind of like putting a in the box because this is the ending that's gonna disappear once we transform this word into plural. So what we will have is lam pi. Remember how I said any consonant but a kratke is going to be the hard ending for a masculine noun, which means a kratke is our soft ending. Another soft ending for masculine would be soft sign. For feminine, the soft ending will be ya, and also soft sign. Remember, the soft sign nouns we have to learn with the gender. It's going to be either masculine for some words, and for other words, it will be feminine. So what happens with these endings is that in plural, they will be replaced by e. There you go. So let's take a look at the word muzей, which means a museum. So our last letter is I kratke. We put it in the box. It's gonna disappear. It's gonna disappear and it's gonna be replaced by e. So we will have muzei. Muzei. Let's take a look at the word герой. And герой means hero, like a true hero, or also a character in a book or in a movie. And it's going to be exactly the same thing. We'll have геро, and и краткое will be replaced by и. Герои, heroes or characters. Now let's take a look at the soft ending feminine, and we'll take the word семья, which means family. And to say families, we're gonna replace ya with i. So we will have семьи. Let's take another word, лекция. Again, it ends in ya, and ya again will be replaced by e in plural. So we will have лекции. Don't be afraid or confused that we will have two e's right here. This e is part of the main word, yeah? And ya is the ending that disappeared and got replaced by e. We're just going to be pronouncing it as e, лекции, лекции. And finally, let's take a look at soft sign words. For soft sign, let's take a word родитель, which means a parent. So it ends in a soft sign, and the noun is masculine. So once the soft sign disappears, we will have родители, parents. Now let's take a feminine word that ends in soft sign, and let's take a look at ночь. Means night, like nighttime, and to say nights will be ночи. For instance, when we talk about St. Petersburg, we often use the term белые ночи, white nights. Okay, as you can see, we have a set of hard endings. So hard endings turn to hard ending U. Soft endings turn to soft ending E. But here we're going to learn a spelling rule. And we're going to put an asterisk right next to U. And we'll write the number 7. And what happens is there are 7 letters of the Russian alphabet that cannot have U after them. And when we have to add U to them, for example, when forming plural, we have to have an alternative. And the alternative is going to be to use the soft ending. So let's take a look at these 7 letters and what happens to the word. I'm going to write them right here. I'm going to write letter 7. And I'm going to write those letters. The letters are G, K, H, G, K, H, and Ж, Ч, Ш, and Щ. So these are the 7 letters that we need to remember, and these 7 letters cannot be followed by the letter U. And let me show you a very cool mnemonic to remember the 7-letter rule. So as you can see, here we have the cats and chicken and Chicago. And you can remember the 7-letter rule by remember this mnemonic. Green, horrified, cats, shot a giant chicken in Chicago. So green stands for G, horrified, stands for H, cats, k stands for K, shot stands for Sha, a giant stands for J, chicken stands for Che, in Chicago stands for Sha. Now, this kind of a pronunciation is very common in the Midwest where I teach, and students pronounce Chicago as Chicago using this sh sound that basically is represented by the letter sh. I hope you like it. Okay, let's continue. Once we have them, we have to switch to E. For example, let's take a look at the word park. It ends in a consonant, so it means we have like the 0 ending here. So we have to add U to K. but we can't because it's part of the 7-letter rule. So what we will have is par. Let's take a look at the word книга, which means a book. So it ends in a. Once a disappears, we will have to add I to the letter G, but we can't because of the 7-letter rule, so we'll have to switch to I. So we will have книги to say books. So as you can see, it's starting to get a little bit more complicated. And another interesting thing about plural is that it's the topic where we start running into exceptions. And exceptions is something we have to learn by heart. I will show you just a couple of examples here, and I'm going to have a separate video with more plural exceptions. So for masculine and feminine, let's take a look at two very, very common words, and that's брат, which means brother, and сестра, which means a sister. So брат needs to be learned by heart because the plural brothers is братья. Брат, братья. For sister or sisters, we'll need to learn the form сестры. Now, as you can see, we did add the regular ending for plural, «ы», but it also changed for the «ё», so the stem of the word changed from сестра to сестры. Okay, now let's take a look at neutral nouns. So here, for hard nouns, we will have the ending «о». And to remember the nouns for plural for neutral, just remember that neutral loves feminine. Why? Because it's going to take its endings. The feminine ending in singular is a, and that is exactly what we will have here. O will change to a. For example, if we have the word письмо, which means a letter, like a physical letter on paper that we write, it ends in O. So to build a plural form, we'll replace O with a. So we will have письма, letters. Let's take the word блюдо, which means a dish, both like a physical dish or a dish in a specific cuisine. And we'll turn that into dishes, and that will have the letter A instead of O again. Блюдо. Like блюда русской кухни, dishes of the Russian cuisine. The soft ending for neutral was «е». And «е» will also turn into a feminine ending «я». Yeah, remember how we had «а» and «я» as the feminine singular endings that showed us that it's feminine. So now we have these letters in plural for neutral, «а» and «я». So let's take a look at some examples. Море. For example, Black Sea, Baltic Sea, Mediterranean Sea. Море means sea. «Е» will be replaced by «я». So we will have моря. Now let's take a long word, but the one we kind of use a lot. It's the word сообщение. And the word сообщение means a message that you send on the phone, in messengers, through social media. So here, even though it's such a long word, it's still a neutral word because it ends in «е», and «е» will be replaced by «я». So to say messages, we will say сообщения. Сообщения. Now let's take a look at a couple of other letters, but for that we will need to remember another spelling rule. And I am going to put a asterisk next to ya, and I will write 5 in parentheses. And what it means is that there are some letters that cannot be followed by ya. And if they have to, they will have to use an alternative. And just like here, we switched from hard to soft as an alternative, here we're gonna switch from soft to hard as our alternative. Now let's take a look what is 5 and why I put it in the parentheses. So do you guys remember we looked at the 7 letter? And you probably were wondering why I wrote it like that. Because these 4 letters are also part of the 5-letter rule. All we need to do is to add the letter C. The letter C. Now, I put this 5 in the parentheses because it's not really a 5-letter rule, because you won't really see too many neutral words with these 3 letters. The only 2 letters out of the 5-letter rule that we care about are what I call loopy letters, and that's C and Sha. Loopy because they have this little loop at the bottom. So the loopy C and Sha are the letters that we'll see them in this kind of like neutral exception category, where they cannot have ya after them and have to have a. Now, why did I still put 5 and 5-letter rule? 7-letter rule and the 5-letter rule are kind of like the cornerstone spelling rules that you have to know, because once we start going into cases, case endings, and other transformations of the word, we will need to know both of the rules. Okay, so let's take a look at what happens. Let's take a look at the word сердце. So as you can see, it ends in ye, so it should be switching to ya. But here we have this ce right here, which means that in plural, we'll have to switch to a. And сердце means heart, and сердца means hearts. Let's take a look at another word. Let's do one with sha. Here is the word кладбище, which means cemetery. Here's our loopy letter sha, ends in ye. And to say cemeteries, we'll replace ye with a instead of ya. So we will have кладбище. 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 Now you also remember we had one more ending for neutral that we kind of put in a separate category. And that was a 2-letter ending, mya. And we had 2 letters and 2 words in this category, имя, which means a name, and время, which means time. So what happens to mya, we have to learn it by heart. In plural, it changes to the ending mena. So to say names, we will lose mya and replace with mena. Имена. Имена. Время, time, to say times, like those were the good times. We will have to again lose mya and replace it with mena. Времена. Usually we don't teach the specific ending at the beginner's levels, but I think since it's just 2 words, it would be good to remember. Now, as you can see, it's getting complicated, but there is a little bit of a silver lining with neutral. And I'm going to put kind of like a heart here because you will love this rule. Clearly borrowed words in neutral don't change. So to say, for instance, the word café or metro, you will just basically use the same form, whether you're saying one cafe or many cafes, one metro or, all the metros in the world. You will still use the word cafe or metro. And that's pretty much it about the plural of the nouns. The next step would be to learn more of the exceptions. Okay, that's the end of this video. I hope you found it useful. Thank you so much for watching and keep learning Russian, and I will see you in my new videos. Пока-пока.